She was the sweet, funny girl America fell in love with on Nickelodeon.
I want to keep this job.
No, but I need to.
The one with the snarky one-liners
Pancakes, yeah!
and a smile that lit up every scene.
Don't be afraid. I just want to eat you.
But behind that smile was a secret so dark, it would one day lead her to write a book called I'm Glad My Mom Died. Jennette McCurdy wasn't supposed to hate her mother. She was supposed to be grateful. After all, her mom was the reason she was famous, the reason she had money, the reason millions of kids knew her name. But the truth, that same mother who pushed her into the spotlight was controlling her every move, every meal, every inch of her life. What started as love and care became manipulation, invasion, and abuse, until the only way Jennette could truly be free was if her mom was gone. This is the shocking, unfiltered story of how America's favorite teen star went from chasing her mom's approval to wishing she'd never have to see her again. And why, when her mom finally died, Jennette felt something she never thought she'd feel: relief.
I'm Glad My Mom Died. It is a heavy title for a book.
Is it a heavy title? Here's the thing. I think people who have a sense of humor get the title. I think anybody who has experienced parental abuse gets the title. Anybody else, the book isn't for them.
Your mom died when you were 21, so you had experienced emotional, physical, and mental abuse from your mother. So have you come to terms with it?
It was a difficult reality to come to terms with, but something that I did through years of therapy. I really needed to understand and make sense of my past privately and on my own time, which I did, and I'm proud of that work.
Jennette's path to fame started before she could even write her own name in cursive. Her mother, Deborah, had grown up poor and struggled to find stability. In Hollywood, she saw an escape, not for herself, but through her daughter. At just 6 years old, Jennette found herself in audition rooms she didn't understand. She was given lines to memorize, smiles to hold, manners to perfect. Acting wasn't play, it was work. And every role meant more money for the family. Jennette didn't know it then, but she was the breadwinner. Her income paid bills, kept food on the table, and supported her mother's vision of a better life.
I felt like my job from a very early age, and I feel like this is unfortunately common for children that grow up in abusive and chaotic and dysfunctional homes. I felt like, oh, nobody else in my family can read mom the same way. I can see when she's about to blow. I can see when she kind of squints a certain way at dad, and that means 2 hours from now, shit's gonna hit the fan, she's gonna chase him with a knife. And I feel like I could predict her emotions a lot better than others and just study them a lot more than anybody around me. So I felt like, well, nobody else is gonna be able to keep her regulated. I didn't know that term at the time, but that's what I was doing. And so I felt like it was my job to keep her emotionally regulated.
But there was no space for her own dreams. If she ever resisted, she was met with guilt. Her mother would remind her of everything the family needed her for. And when you're a child, love and approval are oxygen. So Jennette kept breathing the air her mother controlled. Little did she know, the real control would soon shift from her schedule to her body itself. At 11, most kids are worrying about homework or middle school crushes. Jennette was worrying about calories. Her mother introduced her to calorie restriction, a polite-sounding phrase for something dangerous. The start of anorexia. Every meal was measured, monitored, and criticized. A few extra bites could mean a lecture. A drop in weight meant praise. It wasn't framed as abuse. It was framed as helping her career. If Jennette stayed small, she could keep playing younger characters, booking roles, and staying in the industry. But it wasn't just about Hollywood. Staying small also meant staying under control. The less she grew, the less independence she might seek. And in her mother's mind, independence was a threat. This wasn't parenting, this was conditioning. And while her diet shrank, her sense of personal space disappeared completely. Jennette's mother didn't just control what she ate, she controlled her privacy. Even as Jennette entered her teenage years, her mother insisted on giving her showers. She called them medical exams, claiming she was checking for lumps or illness. But to Jennette, they felt deeply wrong. She remembers staring at the ceiling, trying to leave her body mentally. A survival tactic known as disassociation. It's the kind of abuse that's hard to explain because it hides under the mask of care. To outsiders, it might sound like a doting mother, but for Jennette, it was a lesson. Her body wasn't hers. And when you grow up believing that, the damage echoes into every area of your life. Even her workplace wasn't safe. Landing iCarly should have been a dream come true. The show exploded in popularity, making Jennette one of the most recognizable faces on TV. Fans adored her. Kids wanted wanted to be her, but the environment was far from innocent. Jennette writes about the creator, a powerful figure at Nickelodeon, who allegedly pressured her to drink alcohol when she was underage and gave her unwanted shoulder massages. In her position, saying no could be career suicide. When Sam and Cat, her spin-off with Ariana Grande, was canceled, Nickelodeon allegedly offered her $300,000. But the money came with a condition. She could never speak publicly about her time there or about the creator. To Jennette, it felt like hush money. Tempting hush money. That amount could have paid for her niece's college tuition. It could have set her up for years. But taking it meant choosing silence. And she'd been silent long enough. So she refused. That decision marked a turning point. One that would lead to freedom, but also chaos. In 2013, Jennette's mother died after a long battle with cancer. To some, that might sound like the end of the control, the end of the manipulation. But for Jennette, it was the start of something far more complicated. Her mother was gone, but so was the structure of her life. Without the constant pressure of calorie restriction, her anorexia spiraled into bulimia. She'd starve herself for days, binge until she was in pain, then purge to escape the feeling of fullness. Alcohol became another escape. Nights blurred into mornings. The more she numbed, the more she avoided facing the truth, that her mother had been abusive. For years, she clung to the belief that her mom meant well. Letting go of that meant rewriting her entire life, and she wasn't ready until she found a way to process the truth, one word at a time. Writing started as a private act. It wasn't for fans, agents, or publishers. It was for survival. At first, the pages were messy, rage mixed with grief, confusion mixed with longing. But slowly, she began to see the patterns, the control, the abuse, the moments she'd buried deep to protect herself. Therapy gave her the language for what she'd experienced. Naming it didn't make it hurt less, but it gave her power over it. She realized that acting had never been her dream. It was her mother's, and if she truly wanted to heal, she needed to step away from it completely. So she quit. No more scripts written by others. No more playing someone else's character. It was time to write her own. In 2022, Jennette released I'm Glad My Mom Died. The title stopped people in their tracks. Some were shocked, even offended. But once they read it, they understood it wasn't about celebration. It was about liberation. The memoir became a #1 bestseller, praised for its raw honesty, dark humor, and unflinching look at the hidden cost of child stardom. Now, Jennette is working on a novel, a collection of essays, and serving as showrunner for an Apple TV Plus project starring Jennifer Aniston. She's not acting anymore. She's creating, this time on her own terms. When Jennette says she's glad her mom died, it's not about cruelty, it's about survival. Her mother's death ended the cycle of control and allowed her to live without fear. The shock of the title mirrors the shock of her life, the kind of truth most people hide to protect others. But Jennette isn't protecting the lie anymore. She's telling her story. The question is, what would have happened if her mother was still alive? If Jennette McCurdy's mother had survived, it's hard to imagine she would ever have stepped out of Hollywood's spotlight, because the spotlight was never hers to begin with. It belonged to her mom. Every role, every interview, every forced smile on a red carpet was part of her mother's vision, not Jennette's. With her mom still alive, that control likely wouldn't have loosened with age. Jennette's teenage years had already proven that growing older didn't mean gaining freedom. It meant tighter restrictions. Her body would have remained under constant surveillance, her weight scrutinized, her meals dictated by calorie charts instead of hunger. The invasive medical exams her mother insisted on might have continued far beyond an appropriate age, keeping Jennette in a permanent state of arrested development. And career-wise, any attempt to quit acting would probably have been met with guilt, manipulation, and emotional blackmail. Her mother might have pushed her into more roles, leveraged her fame for bigger projects, or even tried to pivot her into music or modeling. Anything that kept her in the public eye and the money flowing. Behind the scenes, Jennette's voice as a creative would have been silenced entirely. Writing, which later became her salvation, might have been treated as a distraction rather than an outlet. Emotionally, Jennette might still be trapped in the belief that her mom knew best, that the control, the invasions, the pain were all for her own good. Therapy would have been unlikely, because acknowledging the abuse would mean confronting her mother head on, and that's something the younger Jennette had been conditioned to avoid at all costs. In short, if her mother had lived, Jennette may never have had the chance to reclaim her life. The version of her we know today, a best-selling author, a free woman in charge of her own story, might never have existed. Instead, she could have remained in a carefully constructed cage, smiling for cameras while quietly losing herself yourself, 1 year at a time. If you want to stay updated on stories like this, the untold truths, the behind-the-scenes realities, and the news Hollywood doesn't want you to know, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And if you think this story was intense, wait until you see what's coming next. Click right here to watch our latest deep dive, and I'll see you there. This has been What's News.